Hey, welcome to the No Guts, No Gain podcast. This podcast is dedicated to help you navigate the journey of buying a Sandler franchise. So whether you've just started the investigation or you're knee-deep into the decision process, we've got you covered. Hi, I'm Dave Mattson, Executive Chairman and President of Franchising here at Sandler. In each episode, I'm interviewing a Sandler franchisee who is in your shoes. Now, maybe they were investigating 2 years ago or 2 months ago, but they're gonna share their experiences, their insights, the questions that they had when they were sitting in your chair. The goal of the podcast is to provide you valuable information and firsthand accounts from their perspective that will help you in your decision-making process for you and your family. So sit back, relax, and get ready to hear from those who've already jumped into entrepreneurship with a Sandler franchise.
Hey, Brian, welcome to No Guts, No Gain. Thanks for joining.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks, Dave, for having me.
So, Brian, tell us a little bit, how long have you been a franchise now?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. And did you happen to know Sandler ahead of time? Were you a Sandler client ahead of time, or you came in cold?
Nope. I actually took a Sandler program back in Detroit, Michigan when I lived there in 2002.
Okay.
And fell in love with it then and have been a student and a fan ever since.
There you go. And just for those people who don't know Sandler, did you find that when you went through the program as a student, did you think, okay, I got Sandler now, I know my jump into being a franchise is going to be easier? Or did you realize you probably knew this much of Sandler and you had to live it back for that the rest? Like, where were you in your perception of what you knew of Sandler and actually what turned out to be true? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So I took Sandler in '02 for like a 6-month period, and I stopped at that point. I then took it again for 3 full years at my last corporate job for all of 2015, 2016, and 2017. And so I felt like I had a reasonable foundation. But what I learned is after 6 months, a year and a half, I learned that I didn't know nearly as much as I did. I didn't know as much as I thought I did, is what I should say, right? So there was there's a lot of depth to this, and I'm still learning at this point.
Yeah, I think that's true. I always, when people go through, and I didn't realize how much you had gone through, but sometimes you get people coming to us and I went through a 2-day boot camp, so I absolutely know Sandler. I'm like, I don't know. You know, not that it matters. I mean, we're going to teach it to you. I was just curious.
So I will ask people that question is, I know Sandler. I'll say, that's wonderful. Does that mean a boot camp? Does that mean weekly training for full years? Give me some relevance.
That's neat. Yeah. What's that look like?
Does I know Sandler mean? Yeah, I can about that, or I know it. Yeah.
I'm not sure I say that yet. I'm learning Sandler for sure.
Me too.
Let's go back. This podcast is really focused in on people who were in your position when you were looking at a franchise. So if you can kind of go in time for a second, let's start off with why were you looking? Were you between jobs? Were you currently employed and you just decided it's time? And if so, what was the driver for you to say, I'm going to leave I'm going to call it a cushy job here for a second. I know it wasn't, to do what you do now.
Well, cushy is comparable, is a comparable term. And initially it probably was a cushy job compared to what I had at Sandler. So my journey, Dave, is in 2012, I actually looked at a franchise and, up to Ron Taylor at the time and, 3 kids at home, wife at home with the kids, had very, not cushy, but very profitable job in corporate America. And it just wasn't the right time. I then called in early 2017 and there happened to be one available, an existing franchise that had just become available. And I did my dose. I was gainfully employed at the time, took a full month to sort of, I guess it was sort of mid 17 because I ultimately purchased in December 17. So no, I had a job. I had a very good job. I would commonly tell people when I first started, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. And many people thought I was absolutely nuts for doing so. So no, I had a great job. I wasn't running from anything. I was running towards something. I was in technology, information technology, sales and sales management for 25 years. And it was a lot of fun, but I had and have a passion for owning my own business, having complete control over my own destiny, and helping people become better salespeople and better sales leaders. And that's what really drove me to do this.
So that was the driver. Now, did you train people as a leader, or was like that was a passion that you did as part of your job, and you're like, gosh, if I could do this full time, this is it? Or like what?
I'm laughing, Dave, because you'll probably be surprised at this answer, but man, it takes me back. So I'm in my final due diligence.
Okay.
I'm at corporate America. We have a Sandler trainer at the time, and I'm one of the leaders. I'm one of the regional managers. They don't know I'm looking at Sandler, and I'm asked, we're not going to have the Sandler trainer come in this time. There's 3 or 4 of you that know it really well. Will you train it to our group of 100 people? I had never done, I was in sales and sales leadership. I did plenty of presentations, but it's usually 4, 5, 6 people around the table. I had done 0 public speaking, and I was scared out of my short, but I was forced to doing it. It went okay. I was mediocre at best. And then I ultimately bought the business, and I was mediocre at best for quite some time. So no, I had not done any public speaking. And that was something that certainly took me out of my comfort zone and took me quite a while to get reasonable at. But the timing of how it all went down and having forced to do it at my old company was kind of interesting. But no, I do not come from a public speaking or training background.
And so let's go back to your family life for a second. You have kids. You looked at 2012. You put that aside, just bad timing. Came back in 17 at some point in time.
Yep.
As far as spousal support, is everybody on the same page at that point in time? And do you have a lot of convincing to do? Like, hey, because if I was on the other side, it'd be like, hey, yeah, Brian, our life's pretty good here. We're doing pretty well here. You're successful. What do we do? How did that look?
I am, we just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary on July 23rd. And I am an extremely lucky guy. Even in 2012, she would have absolutely been on. So she was absolutely on board. In 2017, we had a couple out of the house at that point, and, we had our last one still in high school. And, corporate America was good to me. And I was in a position, fortunately, that I had socked away some good money. So I was going to be okay if it took me a little bit of time to get back to where I was. So she was supportive throughout. Pretty amazing wife that I have.
Awesome. Good for you. I always feel like, hey, listen, it's tough out there as an entrepreneur. It's tough in a sales business. If you don't have total support at home, I would just say, go find something else.
Agreed.
I mean, even if that's just stay where you are, to be honest with you, it's not worth the battle. So let's go back now. You investigated Sandler. You've obviously looked a couple different times. Walk us through what was important to you as you were making the decision whether you should do Sandler or not. Because I know you weren't looking at a yogurt shop or anything. It was, you came to us 2 different sides. So what was important to you? And what were some of the things that you found after you talked to our franchisees? Not necessarily specific answers, but you're coming out of corporate America. I think from I'm an insider, but I think the culture here at Sandler is completely different. But I'd love your, if you can go back in time and just, here's what I found out, or things of that nature, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did, by the way, look at some other things.
Yeah.
A good buddy of mine, good friend of mine, he was corporate America, I was corporate America. And for years we said, let's go find something to do. And, like Culver's was one of the things that came, right. And, too much hands-on, frankly, not enough income potential. There was a lot of things. So what did I want? Right. I wanted, and I was very fortunate. I had a Sandler trainer at the time who was my mentor. I mean, I asked him to be my mentor. He agreed, and we did that for a number of months. And then I started this diligence, and he was in the Sandler world for over 20 years. And he spent an inordinate amount of time gratis helping me through this process. So, what was I looking for? I knew the content, right? I knew the content worked. I lived it. I implemented it. I just really wanted to make sure that, I guess, first and foremost, I wanted to make sure there was real money to be had. I mean, that was my first box. And a lot of the things that I was looking at out there, Culver's as one example, there's a lot of ways, to make low 6 figures. There's not a lot of ways out there to do significantly better than them. And so I was looking for that. The rest of it I was pretty comfortable with. I knew it was going to take a little time to build up the business, my clientele, and I would have a lot to learn about being an entrepreneur. But through my mentor and other people that I spoke to and doing my due diligence, there weren't any real surprises. The reputation that Sandler has is amazing. And then if I can, Dave, maybe to add on to your question, fast forward, 6 months into the business, I learned a little bit about the culture in my diligence, but 6 months in, I was super impressed by two things come to mind. One, I lived in my little tech bubble for 25, plus years. Few people knew Sandler, but Sandler was much more known in my market, at least, and even, across the United States as I've dealt with, referrals into other states and things like that. Much more known, number one, and the reputation was unbelievable. Like, if you talk to 100 people, 99 of them would say they had an absolutely fantastic experience, and one would say it was good. And I didn't know that coming in. So that was bonus number one. Bonus number two was the culture within Sandler. And I tell people this all the time when I talk to folks that are potentially looking at becoming franchisees. The culture around here is better than any organization I ever worked at in corporate America. And I worked for some good companies. The willingness for people to help one another goes above and beyond anything I've ever seen before. And that's fantastic.
Yeah, I tell you, that is awesome. I always say this is a group of corporate misfits, and where, you had a territory. That was your territory. Don't go outside your territory in corporate America. And I know it's not as black and white as that, but the amount of support that they provide to other franchisees with no strings attached is just amazing. Even during COVID, the amount of people that had a difficult time transitioning to virtual, and that happened like overnight. All the people who were very comfortable with virtual or were doing virtual anyways, spent that with their franchisees' clients for free. Yeah. And it's just time in and time again. You said your mentor spent hours with you. They want your mentor, they would still spend hours with you. It's one of those things where it's very difficult to describe, but how cool is it when you realize it and you're here? I guess it's awesome.
It is. It is absolutely awesome. Yep.
So let me go to the first 6 months or so. Walk us through, I think, the biggest surprise for you in the first segment. It could be 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. What was the biggest surprise for you? And what were you told going into it so you were completely prepared? So there's two different questions there.
What was I prepared for, or what was I surprised by?
Yeah.
Yeah. As I've, again, spoken to a number of potential franchisees, that's a common question you get.
Yep.
I don't mean for this answer to sound arrogant at all, but it really wasn't surprised by much of anything. And that is because of the amount of time that this 20-year Sandler person, who since has retired from Sandler, but he spent all this time with me. This is a big decision. So I'm asking a billion questions. It took me a full 6 months to get through this agreement and due diligence once I had the conversation with the former owner that I bought the business from. I guess some of the stuff that was maybe a little bit of surprise is all the things that I didn't know about being a business owner. Just taxes to, just the different services I was going to need and functions I was going to need within my business. And it's not inordinate, but, I did this
part of it for you. Corporate America did that for you.
I didn't know anything about it. I had, people are saying things like Chamber of Commerce and B&I and Vistage. And I didn't even know what any of these terms meant. Chamber of Commerce, I had heard that term. But all these other things, my network was the people that I work with and my clients, and they were scattered all over the country. So that was probably a little bit of a surprise, in that I had to build out a bunch of local contacts and learn a lot about all these business owner things that I didn't know anything about. I didn't need to, working in corporate. So that was probably it. But again, in general, thanks to my mentor, and me being diligent, not a lot of big surprises.
Did you actually leverage your network, or did you have to start relatively net new?
A mix. I would just say it was there was a small, it was a small existing Sandler business. It was dwindling pretty rapidly when I bought it. So there wasn't much there, but I hit it from all angles. I hit my network. I went out and figured out where my ideal client profile, my target market was. Vista is a good example. Went and joined some other paid networking organizations where I was going to be bumping elbows with the right target audience. But yeah, I mean, I fortunately did have a good reputation and was successful in corporate America. And so reached out to those folks as well. So, I mean, again, I'm like a salesperson would. I'm a classic salesperson at heart. I'm going to figure out where the low hanging fruit is, the medium hanging fruit, and I'm going to hit it 17 ways to Sunday, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So what does your business look like? We can talk a little bit about structure. You by yourself. I heard you mention you have a couple kids. Do you think they're going to come in with you? So let's do structure stuff. And then let me move over to like, what's it look like from a persona? Like, who are you calling on? Who are your clients? Whether it's, I only call on sales leaders. I only call on technology companies as an example. So I've got a persona and an industry thing. That before we get to the types of people you're calling on that are in your class and the types of industries, let's go to your business setup. Are you by yourself? Do you have support help? What's it look like?
Right. So structure, kids, ideal client profile. All right. So structure has changed. So when I bought the business from the existing franchisee, he had an associate, and that associate stayed with me until December of last year. And so he was in the business quite a while, and it just got to the point where it wasn't a good fit for both of us. And so we parted ways. I also had another associate, a woman, and she just left a couple of months ago. Just really more of a CEO coach type versus someone who had a hardcore sales background. And so that was going to be a better fit for her. In terms of support, so I'm down to me as far as selling, prospect, sell, and train, as is burned in my brain here in that order. This is a prospect first, then sell, then train business, as opposed to being a training business with a sales sidekick. It's a sales job with a training sidekick. So I'm the solo producer and deliverer.
Okay.
You got some co-ops that I'm in. I don't know if we don't go down that path, but I've got some co-ops where we share training with other franchise owners. So that's the structure, what it was and what it is. The kids, our kids our three boys are 28, 25, and 22. The youngest and the oldest are in sales jobs. I don't know where they would have got the idea. That's a good idea, but that's it. The middle one is still kind of figuring out what he's going to do, but they have all expressed interest in being in the business. From my perspective, they need a good 5-10 years under their belt probably to get some real world experience, but that's a possibility. I don't know if that will happen or not, but it's certainly a possibility. Anything you want me to clarify on those two?
Is that a goal for you? Or you're like, hey, Brian, I'm going to end up selling the business. So if it's to one of my kids, that's fine. But if I could do a family-owned business, that would be fantastic. I mean, it's really kind of how you perceive that to be for you.
I do my best. It's not easy as a parent. I think you can probably guess it, but I do my best to not have a goal that thrusts my goal onto my children. So you said, is it my goal for them to come into the business? My opinion to that answer is, it's not any of my business. It's not my place to make it a goal for them. Yeah. So you ask them that question and they can, I don't have a goal to thrust them in. I have a goal for them to do what they do and do my best to stay out of their way. So that's again, not easy, but that's where I try to,
No, I'm in the same camp. I've got 5 kids and my wife or my friends will say, hey, what about this? I said, I have no opinion. It's not my opinion. It's not my It's not good place. You said, I have a goal to have my kid raised. All I thought of is that's not my place to say. Yeah.
So in terms of, but I can go on and add on to that answer and say, I absolutely love this business, right? And you don't have to, you can work as many or as little hours as you want.
Yeah.
I have a better work-life balance. I don't really like that term, but it's out there. So we'll use it, than I've ever had. I'm still making, if by anybody's definition, very good money, and I'm not killing myself. And I still love doing what I do after 6.5 years. So I want to do this as long as I can, and as long as I'm adding value out there in the world. I don't have any deadline that I want to sell the business within. 10 years from now, I might be working half or 2/3 of the time of what I am now. If somebody came along and wrote a check for a big enough number, I'd probably sell it and see if I could just work for this. You know, I mean, it's not that I don't have goals. I absolutely have goals. I have affirmations. I do all my things that, you know, I learned in Sandler and in other psychology and business type. Well, do all those, but I'm not trying to force any of those things. Just kind of letting it come as it comes and control.
Yeah, that's right. You can't control it. I mean, how old are you now?
56.
Okay, 56. So the fact of the matter is, when you're talking about work-life balance and you're 56, I think most people are trying to figure out how to get as much money as possible to retire at 70-something. So kudos. But you and I talked right before we got on the podcast. So let's talk a little bit about work-life balance. So what does your year look like? You're in Denver now. I know the answer, but where are you going to be working for the next 3 or 4 months this coming winter?
Yeah, so we have a place on Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. So we spent some time there in the summer, which I have the time to be there. And then in the winter, we just started this last year because I mentioned our youngest is 22. So we're officially empty nesters and they're all off the payroll, AKA out of college. So that's a windfall. And so last winter, we did an inaugural trip in a Class A motorhome and traveled all over Florida and worked out of the Class A motorhome. Virtual backgrounds are a wonderful thing, and good internet that you can get, with gadgetry on the roof of your motorhome. And then this year we're going to go back. So last year was explore all of Florida and figure out where we want to be a little longer stretch. And we were all over the place last year. We really fell in love with the place in Naples. So we're going back for 4 months. And as I need to travel out to see clients and visit them for in-person trainings, I'm close to an airport there and I'll go do that. Otherwise, it's a Zoom world. So that's phenomenal work-life balance perspective.
That's awesome. So you could be in the motorhome right now, for all I know.
That's like, not like,
but you're running a business that is Colorado-based business.
Yep.
That's Florida for the 4 months that you're there. No one knows the difference. You're providing value to the clients. You're selling into Colorado. The money's still coming in. And as you said, regardless of if you had to jump on a plane, you'll jump on a plane. What's the big deal, right? It's no big deal.
Yep.
That is awesome. And I think most of the people are looking at a franchise that they can't even get their head around it. Like, wait a minute, hold on. And I always love that because if, people looking at a yogurt franchise, you better show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you don't leave until 9 o'clock. You're kind of like a hostage to the location. They're not necessarily through here.
And just for some perspective, I was a remote worker starting in 2007, meaning I was very comfortable in that environment. It was weird for me to go into an office for a time when I started doing that. So I'm very comfortable working at home or in a motorhome or wherever it may be. And, it's funny, Dave, I have lots of clients in Denver, but, I have clients that are all over because of the way our rules work, and we can get referred in anywhere, do business anywhere. And because of my tech background and that being a large percentage of my clients, not all of them, but a good chunk of them, because they refer me over to other people, I got clients all over the place. And so, the Colorado base, and we certainly have a good contingent of Colorado clients, but we have clients all over. And the fact of the matter is Zoom is a very efficient way. Not only do training, but it dawned on me, I don't know, it was maybe a month or two ago, somebody asked me when was the last time I did a sales call to close a piece of business in person. And the answer was, it's been a while. I mean, probably like even in Denver, if people are 40 minutes away or 30 minutes away, I think a lot of our world has become very comfortable. We can see one another. It still feels like, and it's so much more efficient in terms of the time. So
100%.
Do a lot. The point I think that would be valuable for people to know, not only can I travel and do what we've already discussed, but I'm closing business via this, we're not on Zoom right now.
I mean, I think COVID in the virtual world has actually allowed you to scale. Yeah, instead of like the old days, you had to go do a 3-hour program, let's say, even if it was in Denver, that's still 5 hours. Like that is your day. Now, you're going to jump on a camera for 15 to 30 minutes. You're going to go right back. You could be doing a client engagement here in 30 minutes. Who would know the difference? That's what it's just amazing how it's allowed the franchisees to scale And I think a lot of that was that clients have convinced themselves that this is okay. Not you walk this way. It's okay. And they like it too. And I don't think, quite frankly, until 2020, you could have convinced clients that we're going to train your sales force remotely. They'd be like, wait a minute.
I completely agree. And I think something else that the audience of this would like to understand is, so we have an office in Denver. We're using it. We've got clients all over. So we're doing a mix of Zoom and, in person. And of course, COVID hits and we shut down. And then everybody's really excited to go back into the office and they into in-person training. And they come back for about a month and then they stop showing up. And we contact all of them. We're like, what's up? Right? You were all excited to come back. That's up. And they said, and this is a positive, right? I think, right? Is they said the training is just as good over Zoom as it is in person. We're getting equal value. And, we can sit here in our sweatpants and our bunny slippers and not drive 20 minutes even in Denver. And so at the end of the day, fine with me, the key thing is making sure that the clients are getting maximum value. And if they are, and then the other thing is, and this may lead us into who my clients are, but as soon as you get to an organization that has 6, 8, 10, 15, 20 plus salespeople, and they're not all in a given place,
right?
The world immediately becomes Zoom.
Yep.
You're in, right? Because it's other than once or twice a year, maybe, right, that get together, and that's when they'll fly me in and I'll go do my thing in person. But, that is my ideal client profile. Those people who have salespeople scattered, it's automatically Zoom. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
I have my 20 people in 3 different offices in Colorado. And even that, it's automatically, because they're not going to drive all, you're not going to have 8 people, or 60 will drive, and they're scattered. I mean, they're far north, far south. And then,
but 5 years ago, they were all driving.
They were.
And so I did, it would have been an inhibitor actually maybe to do business with you. Like, well, I don't know if I could bring them all in. It was like a whole set of objections that no longer are even on the table, to be honest.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, it's all good.
So let's go to your client base, because we've talked about it a couple different times. And are you calling on like owners, what size companies, and who are they? Like, what is you look at your portfolio of companies, where are they sitting?
I sigh because I feel like I have a terrible answer to this question. But it's the truth. All right. So I have clients that are as big as 150 learners. And I will train all over the globe and, match up to their time zones, evening sessions for people that are in, Asia Pac, and it's their morning the next day, morning sessions for people in Europe, and then, hit our time zones here in the United States. So if you were to say, what's the ideal client profile? I'm going to say it's 20 learners to 150. I do have a lot of tech, but I have clients outside of tech. This company I just mentioned in Colorado with 3 locations, they're an civil engineering firm with 25 people. And again, it's trained over Zoom. And so it's all over the place. At the same time, I do have, because of the reputation we have, because of the fact that the name of my company has been in Denver since 1996, I do have individuals who come into our public program. So is it worth me taking just a minute to explain public-private hybrid to people?
No, please.
So I deliver training in 3 weeks. Public means that you have salespeople or sales leaders, because we do both, and we also have client success, but those 3 are our main ones. We have other stuff, but think client success, sales leaders, and salespeople. So if we focus on the salespeople side of it, public means that you're in a program, in a class with salespeople from all kinds of different other companies and all kinds of other industries, and it works well. Even though industries are different, we're always shocked by this. The way that we teach this content, it works great. There's a lot of value in having different businesses and different levels of skill within Sandler and how long they've been. So that's public. That's pretty easy to understand. Okay. Private, you come to me with 50 salespeople. I've done public as high as 25 or 30, so I'm picking 50. And I'm going to train you private. And what that means is it's just your people and me. Over Zoom, in person, likely some combination. But a really good sweet spot for me has been hybrid. And I will do a hybrid for people in that 5 to 50, even as high as 20. And I get I have 2 clients right now in that program that for the first half of 2024 have blown their historical numbers absolutely out. I mean, just blown everything away. And I know, and they give me a chunk of the credit. They should take some of the credit too, of course, right? Most of the credit. But I know that part of that magic sauce, special sauce, is this hybrid. So they're getting the public components. And then once a month, they do a 30-minute check-in with the leader or leaders. Say that's the second Tuesday of the month. And we talk about what's working and what's not working and what they want me to reinforce with the team and et cetera, et cetera. And then maybe the third Tuesday, we do a 1-hour private session with just this 15 people, for example.
Okay.
Now we're tailoring the content specifically to that.
Application and role plays, questions, all this stuff. Like,
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Very little content. It's more role play and challenges and successes. And that combination of the manager check-in, the public training, and 1 hour of private training, again, what I call hybrid, in that 7 to 15, 7 to 20, has been a great longevity with those clients. They stay for a really long. These 150 ones, I've had a number of them. They've been great. They're tech companies for the most part, and they get bought.
they're coming.
They exit, they get bought by a bigger company or they go public or whatever it is. So some of these medium-sized ones, I've had better longevity. So I hope that's not too much information.
No. But talk to me a little bit about, because I know we're getting up to time here. Talk to me a little about magic of community-based learning, the public programs, because you came from a Sandler experience where I'm assuming it was private, right? We came to the tech company. We did what?
I came from both. I came from both. Remember, my first 6 months back in Detroit in 2002, that was a public program. But yes, my 3-year, 2015, 2016, 2017 was private. Yeah, the magic of public is it can't be understated, I guess, is what I would say.
Amazing.
It's amazing, right? Because we, in fact, just a quick story came to mind. A good sales tool is to have someone crash clicks. And so we had this special class. Now we're mindful about when we do breakouts, who we put that person in with.
Sure.
But she went in, it was a woman. She went into this breakout and, they had 10 minutes and no trainer was in there. So the first thing she did was she asked the 3 people in the room with her, what's this training all about? Is this any good? Right. And of course, praised us up one side and down the other. And I got a signed contract the next day. Right. So, I mean, but as far as the learning, having people share with one another that are at various stages of this process. And I guess a real simple example is you put a new person in with someone who's been doing it 6 months and the new person's like, I don't know about this, right? They're teaching us like this thing called on contract. I don't think that's going to work in my world. And they express that to the other students and the students say, we thought the same thing. Just do it. It works. And that is so much more powerful than anything that we can say. That peer-to-peer communication is magic. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think Reverend saw the non-filtered, because I don't have blinders on, like that will never work for my industry. You could say it, but it has more power when a client who's a little ahead of them says it, for sure. I also love the fact that when you do the role plays and exercises, I may come with 1 or 2 questions as an individual salesperson, but I'm walking away with like 20 things because everybody else throws their stuff on the table, which are the exact same problems that I'm having. I just didn't bring them up now. And that's awesome. And I also think it's freedom. It's a safety in a way, because if I'm in a private company with the owner of the business sitting next to me, how many times can I say, hey, listen, I can't close the deal unless I discount. But pretty soon they're going to have a little coaching session with Dave, called an exit strategy. And that's not good for me. But in this safe environment, it's almost the way for salespeople, honestly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I love is may not be ready for the message that you're delivering today, but because I get to come, it's like an open enrollment to a gym, because I get to come frequently. Today, I'm just maybe focused on presentation skills because something happened to my wife. The next time I come, like I'm just focused on negotiation. That agility for me to kind of just hone in on what's important to me is absolutely amazing. And that's how I started. 1986, I was in public when no way is this working. I'm sitting next to an engineer I mean, look at them. They're crying out loud. What am I doing here? But I'll tell you what, by lunchtime, I was hooked. I was in. It was awesome.
I feel the same way. And maybe this would be, again, we're pitching Sandler as a methodology. Yeah, helpful, but I do have a short story that need to be helpful. So, 2002, I'm making very good money. I'm going on President's Club trips and all this kind of good stuff, but I never really had any sales training. And I said, I think I'm going to do this sales thing long term, right? I had been in outside sales 5 years. I'd been in an inside sales job for a few years before that. So that kind of gives you some context, right? And I take Sandler, and within 6 months, my income, I tracked it. My income went up 54%, and it never up. No. And that's a big number. Starting with a nice number as I was making coming into it, never went back down. And the only thing I changed was Sandler. And I was not doing gobs of it at that point. I was doing little splices of it, but it gave me a lot of sanity for, okay, this thing that I'm kind of, trial and erroring is what I was doing before that on my own. That didn't work. That worked. It gave me some structure and some names for things that I was doing right. And it gave guidance for things that I knew I wasn't doing as well as I could. And that was very liberating for me to be able to now run a sales call and not keep second guessing myself. Right. Maybe on that. Maybe I could have done that. And then going back to the public, the other thing I'll say that I think is worth pointing out, at the beginning of every class, we open the session with successes and challenges. And that's an opportunity for people to say, hey, we tried that technique you taught us. I have 2 clients in the last couple of days that have come back to me and said, the thing you taught us on ghosting, right? When someone goes dark on you in the middle of the session, we got some great tactics for that. And I have 2 people that said, it's worked phenomenal. Well, now they say it in front of their peers, and those that were reluctant to do it will now do. Or if they bring a challenge, hey, what happens when such and such, we do this and they do that? What are we supposed to do? We can answer that individual's question, but everybody's. So that's, you got every time.
It's awesome. Hey, listen, super proud of what you've accomplished. I appreciate you coming on. I know you're super busy, and I want to say thank you. And again, for, you're kind of explaining what people are going through now. You're looking back in time, and I think it's just helpful. So I appreciate everything that you do for us, and I look forward to seeing you in our conference.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
Talk soon.
All right. Take care.
For more information on Sandler franchising opportunities, go to sandler.com/franchising. And don't forget to subscribe to the No Guts, No Gain podcast on your favorite app.